what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and I've played a lot of really freaking weird free-to-play games, MMO games, and games on the browser, which tend to be free-to-play games, MMOs. Okay, so I played a lot of these games, and not all of them are noteworthy. Not all of them have continuously updated, especially with the whole, browser game purge that we had. In fact, I have a whole top 10 list of games that are completely obsolete because they're no longer browser-based, or they just don't exist anymore. So this list is going to be more for the current player, the one that wants to see something new and play some really freaking weird games. That's really what I want my whole channel to be about, is making list videos and reviews of games like, hey, you probably haven't experienced this, watch me experience it and talk about the experiences so that we can experience it together. Yeah, something weird like that. Who knows? But this is going to be my top 5 browser MMO list. Now, I know some of you guys have thoughts and feelings of the MMOs that you love, that you can play in the browser, or you could play in the browser. I just ask that you kind of check yourself and make sure that you can still play those games in the browser. So these are going to be the current browser MMOs. And I just wanted to let you know that I picked it based on Uniquity generally, also if they've kept updated, and my current modern experience with the game, and that is competing with other MMOs. So I think whether you like free-to-play or otherwise, browser, normal AAA games, I think that these games are weird and special, and you should at least give them a shot. So, without further ado, let's get into my top 5 browser MMO list. Alright guys, so the first game that I'm going to be talking about here is Mad World. This is a brand freaking spanking new game that I was really blown away by. So it might not even technically be fully playable and fully functional right at the moment, but when I played the tests and the different seasonal events that they had, it left such an impact on me that I have to add it to this list. So hopefully you guys can jump in and play it a little bit, or maybe it's going to be fully released soon. But Mad World is a game that has this really kind of dark and I don't know, kind of almost poetic art style going with it, where things can look really morbid and dark, but it's also really kind of cheesy and cartoony and kind of flash animated. I don't know, dudes, but it's an isometric game that has this 2D kind of element to it that, I don't know, some love with the art style that I appreciate. Hopefully you do too. But when you get into the game, it is a browser game, and it is flashy, strange art style, weird looking, but it actually plays incredibly solidly, very smoothly, I think. So even with the strange art style, and I have played a few Don't Starve that had kind of this, art feeling mechanically, but Mad World actually runs freaking great and overall is less clunky than those other AAA big games that I've played. So I'm really impressed just by that fact. It's an MMO that has big giant bosses, these big raid fights, lots of effects going all over the place. PvP was actually really intense and sincere, and overall, the game just ran, and that was in its alpha state. So I'm just impressed by this title. Now, overall, yeah, of course, I really am biased toward the art direction. I am biased for the fact that it's a weird browser MMO, but it's going to be a free-to-play game that you play in the browser that has this just really intricate, special niche design that I think more people should just kind of dive into. So if you're a fan of action RPGs, and if you're a fan of just weird-looking worlds, then Mad World is definitely one to jump into. Next up, we have a game called Starbreak. Now, this is going to look kind of like Metroidvania, and maybe at first glance. You do run into dungeons, but it's not quite like that. You go into basically an open instance. That's very important to clarify. You do jump into a dungeon, but it's an open dungeon, so lots of other players can jump in, and you do have these massive raids, in the end, so don't worry, it is a proper MMO, but it is going to play at the very beginning like a dungeon diver. It's going to look like a dungeon diver, but promise, it's online as frick, okay? So Starbreak is going to be a shooter-type action RPG, side-scroller, beat-em-up kind of experience. It's weird, different characters play differently, but overall, it is going to be an online dungeon diver where there's a ton of platforming. That's what's going to make it really special, and I really wish that more games had that verticality or platforming inside of their fights. You kind of get a tease, and maybe in some modern MMOs or some modern games, maybe like Destiny, there is a little bit of jumping here and there, but in Starbreak, that's the main thing. You're jumping all over the place from platform to platform. Falling can kill you, bosses can wreck your face, there is actually a difficulty to it, and there's this sort of pseudo-rogue experience where you can't actually die. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on with Starbreak in so many different genres, but when it comes to browser MMOs with action, you normally wouldn't expect a game to look as good as this and as smoothly and play as fun, but that's Starbreak, it actually does. So maybe not for everyone, and especially if you are looking for MMO proper with a big consistent world, because the rogue element maybe doesn't feel as consistent and it's broken up a lot, the pace is, jump into these instances, but trust me guys, there is some online community gamification going on here. There's actually some really interesting stuff. If you can join in their Discord or their forums, I think you find a group or jump in with a bunch of friends, dude, that's an adventure. And now halfway on our list, I'm gonna put DarkOrbit. Now I'm putting it halfway on the list despite my naivety with the game. I'm pretty noob at it, but I just really appreciate that they updated the engine. So this game used to look one way, and I would have never put it on the list, but it was always advertised and people played it, man. Like, I don't know, I guess this was like the browser EVE Online back in the day. Like, this was just like the cheesy sci-fi space game that you could play. And there's a lot of IO games out today now that directly compete with it. Even if they're not MMOs, a lot of people are playing those games. But I want to slap in DarkOrbit because they have kept up with the times. It actually looks really good. And it's so classic, and they've consistently updated it, and they've really pushed this game. And while it might not be the most popular, again, this is just a list of the games that I think I really want to applaud here. I'm going to put DarkOrbit because when so many other games have removed browser functionality, and yeah, we got a lot of new ones coming out, like I've already mentioned, but to have a classic game like this to consistently update and grow the engine and try to grow the community, even despite how niche it is and despite such competition, I think this is a game that could actually maybe have a bounce back. A lot of people are interested in stuff like Star Citizen, and we have a lot of space games, and of course EVE Online still doing great, and there's a lot of those IO games, which, you know, I like Starblast.io, one of my favorite IO games out there, and DarkOrbit actually technically is also like an IO game, an interactive online game. It's a browser game, and I wish I mentioned it more. It's not technically .io, but DarkOrbit is a browser game that has, you know, that consistent MMO universe you want to jump in. And if you want something a little bit deeper than what you find in IO games, but also something a little bit lighter than what you see in the full-fledged MMOs like EVE Online, then DarkOrbit, I think, is in just the right, perfect spot. Maybe not for everyone, but I wanted to mention it here. Alright guys, number 2, I'm going to slap down the new zombie survival game called Dead Maze. Now, this might be a surprise because my first look was really freaking awkward. Some translation errors, and overall the game just had a really slow start. But you should probably play past that slow start, or definitely jump in with a group of people, because this is a game that actually is pretty freaking decent. Now, you can also jump on Steam, all that good stuff. You don't have to play the browser version, but you can play the browser version. It's a browser MMO. But I will say, just real quick, I do appreciate when games have the option, and we're seeing that more with IO games even, that, yeah, you know, you could play this cross-platform with mobile, or you can download it on Steam for better performance. I really do like that. But, of course, while we're talking about this list, it's a browser game. It's going to run good. It's going to look good. It's got that clean 2D art style, kind of reminiscent of like what we talked about with Mad World. And you are going to see a lot of isometric games, you know, being browser-based. But Dead Maze is a proper MMO. There is proper progression. There is a proper world to, you know, hang out in and maybe kill some zombies and stuff like that. Now, overall, it's not terribly unique in terms of what it's trying to do. Even in the browser MMO genre, there was a game called Dead Frontier, which I would have put on this list in replace of this. However, Dead Frontier is getting a sequel, and I think the developers stopped production of that. So yeah, when the game is new or when it's continuously being updated, that's something to praise. That's something to talk about, because we want to play online games and we want to continuously play these games, continuously jump into them. So Dead Maze is new, Dead Maze is fresh, and a lot of people, my audience especially, have really been begging me to keep talking about this and keep playing it. So here it is, guys. Number 2. It really is just clean and simple. It's a zombie survival MMO. You jump in, kill zombies, loot stuff, and think. Yeah, it's really straightforward. And I hope that you guys can jump in, get past the awkward, you know, baby stages, and then you'll have a whole experience, adventure waiting for you. Right, guys, our number 1. This was pretty obvious, right? Everyone saw this coming. That's going to be Realm of the Mad God. So this is a game that I continuously put in top 10s, like, over all the years that it has ever existed, because I really prize uniquity. Also, I prize maybe a little bit of quality, and I felt like Realm of the Mad God just ran good for what it was. A bullet hell MMO with rogue elements. Like, there was always new content. There was always something to do. You could always jump into it. This is the game that was like my first IO or browser game that I really kind of begun to understand why people like this kind of stuff, because you could just jump in and play with anybody, anytime, anywhere. You know, and it's still an MMO. There's still a big open world. There's still adventure to be had, you know, continuously. So it wasn't just a quick jump in and get out. This was a game that's like, it's quick to jump in, and then, oh my God, you can spend all day in this game and continuously. You can make guilds and properly play this game pretty competitively and seriously, I would imagine. But Realm of the Mad God had some pros and cons over the years, some ups and downs, but I think at the moment it's at a really good spot. So yeah, man, I'm still gonna put it at number 1. It's really funny. A lot of games on this list I have put in top 10s before, multiple top 10s even. But Realm of the Mad God has been so consistent with free-to-play lists, with browser lists, with, you know, for low-spec PC lists, for it really hits so many sweet spots for so many different people while still being really freaking weird and unique that I just have to keep talking about it. I have to keep gushing about it because as somebody who loves game design, right? As somebody who's a nerd and a hardcore critic, Realm of the Mad God, for me especially, yeah, my bias is, man, it's hitting just every sweet spot that it possibly could. So I appreciate it. I hope it gets bigger. I hope they add in more. There's even clones coming all over the place, and we'll be covering those. Some horrible, some actually really interesting, but Realm of the Mad God is still the king of the castle for me. Let me know in the comments below what you think as well. So that's going to be it for the top 5 list. Quick and clean. Hopefully you guys understand that these games are just really freaking weird and strange, and I know they're not going to be for everybody, but I think you guys look at these list videos, these list reviews, because you want to see, hey, what's worth trying out? You know, even if I don't love it, is it worth actually putting my eyeballs on it? Is it worth jumping in and trying to have a time in it? And I think it is, you know, somewhere, somehow, I hope so. And if you do find a game that you liked and enjoyed, or that you didn't know about before, I would love it if you gave a thumbs up to the video, you know, call to action hype. Got to keep it alive, right? So thanks, guys. I want to keep doing weird, fun top 10 lists. I want to keep doing these as serious reviews. So I would appreciate some eyeballs over on the Patreon, and you know, I just gotta applaud you guys for the donations, the love and support, and as well those who just hang out, watch the videos to completion, and comment below. You guys literally are the hype that is keeping the channel alive. Thank you so much. I had fun with the video, I had fun with these games, and hopefully you do too. Keep the hype alive, guys. My name's Skylent, and I'll see you again next time.